Hi everyone, welcome back to one of our apiaries, a migratory apiary, where we bring our bees down into Essex for a borage crop. So we help pollinate a crop called borage, sometimes called starflower I think, and in return we get a fairly large crop of honey off it. It's quite a delicate, light coloured honey if you've ever seen borage, but the bees do take a huge crop off this plant, and it's worthwhile for us to bring our bees down from our home up in Norfolk down into Essex. So today I thought that we would show you one of the colonies that are here. They're in a honeypore hive, which is probably my favourite hive. It's a poly hive, 10 frame Langstroth, and it's one that we've used for quite a number of years now, and I really enjoy keeping our bees in these. So nothing really specific in this video to show you at the moment until we actually get into the hive. So we're going to carry out a general inspection. We have actually this morning spotted a swarm in a stack of supers. If you want to have a look at that video, then do take a look at our Patreon page, where we've got lots more content for you to enjoy. But anyway, let me get my smoker lit and suit on, and we'll head over to the hive and let's see how these bees are doing on the borage. Well, here we are. Lots of bees at the entrance, so that's good. Grab my hive tool. I have two types of hive tool, a J tool and a standard hive tool. I'm just looking at the bees at the entrance just to make sure that everything looks okay. So this honeypore hive is possibly my favourite, well it is my favourite hive. It's one that we really do want to make our primary hive. We've used lots of different hives over the years. This I think is probably the hive of choice for me now. And if you want to find out more about the honeypore hives, then check out our Patreon page. I talk quite a lot about them there. Okay, so this is quite a heavy box. So this is a Langstroth 10 frame poly hive, and I don't know if the camera can pick up on the honey that has been stored between the two supers, but it's really very, very light, so I know instantly that the bees are foraging the borage plants. So we wouldn't normally at this time of the year inspect the brood box. We would normally just check that the bees have enough space in these supers. That's another heavy box. And then this box, well, this box is almost full as well, and looks as if I will need to put another box on top. So I wouldn't normally inspect all of these boxes. I'm just going to lean this one against the side because I don't want to crush all the bees that are on the top of that super. But we thought it would be useful to show you what's going on in our brood box. So this is our wire queen excluder, and that prevents the queen from getting up into the supers on most occasions. They do occasionally slip through a gap and end up in the supers. Quick look underneath to make sure the queen's not there. Now this colony, I don't know if you can hear, they they're not terribly calm, they feel a bit tetchy with me, they're a bit grumpy, maybe a little defensive. Maybe they think we're going to steal the honey off them this week, which we're not. We're going to leave that for another couple of weeks. So it's always nice to see plenty of food in the brood box. I do like to make sure that they have sufficient stores in the brood box. The bees are definitely unhappy about me being in here. I just put a little bit of smoke in the air just to mask any pheromone. And I like to make sure that these brood boxes have food in them, because what I don't want is to take all of the honey away and leave the bees with no food stores. So this second frame that I've just looked at is also food stores. And then we come into our brood nest area. And here we've got lots of bees starting to emerge, and also more stores in the surrounding area. At this time of the year, most of the swarming has finished. There are some colonies, as I said, we picked up a swarm this morning, but for the most part that swarming instinct has now passed, and we're really just checking, I guess, to make sure that we have a laying queen and that the bees look healthy and the brood looks healthy. And this is a really nice frame of healthy brood in all stages, or bias as it's sometimes called, and that looks really good. And as I'm holding the frame, I'm looking at the adult bees as well, just checking that the adult bees all look fine, and then looking into the cells to make sure that we have eggs, which is a really good indicator that we have our laying queen and she's in there and everything is fine. And we do have eggs in that particular frame, so quite happy that we have a laying queen in here. Now, it's not necessary to see the queen, and more often than not, if you choose not to look for the queen, you'll spot her anyway, because it's just one of those things. You go looking for her, you can never find her, but if you're looking for something different, maybe you're just checking for healthy brood, all of a sudden she pops up and she's right in front of you. So I don't know if you can tell, if on the next frame I'll lift the frame out and just hold it so you can have a look at it, but the bees are quite busy on the comb. So a lot of our colonies, the bees are fairly static on the frame, but as soon as I tilt it towards the camera, the bees start moving, and wouldn't you know, I'm not really looking for her, but there she is. Here's our queen, marked with a green dot. And one of the signs that there's a nectar flow is that the brood nest area fills up with nectar. You might be able to see on this frame nectar glistening from the cells. It's a really good sign that there's a strong nectar flow on. So thinking about the bees here, we're not looking for anything in particular with this colony. I'm not inspecting them for any particular purpose other than to demonstrate an inspection. But what I am doing is thinking about the general state of the bees and whether I would look to breed from these in the future. Here's an interesting area of brood. So I don't know if you can see these cells here. I'll use my hive tool to point them out. So these are worker cells that appear to have been uncapped and are now being recapped. And Just recently I've been reading a lot about Varroa resistant bees, and this is one of the signs that bees are potentially opening up the cells to get rid of Varroa, and is a hygienic trait. Still trying to learn more about it, because we are looking to switch to a regime of not treating our bees at all for Varroa. So currently we're using mechanical means, but we are looking for colonies that show signs of this kind of Varroa resistance. So this is quite an interesting colony to look at. So I'd be very interested if anybody out there, if any of you do think you have Varroa resistant bees, or you've seen this particular trait in your bees and it is a Varroa resistance trait, then please do leave me a comment. I'd be really interested to pursue a conversation with people about how we can further integrate that Varroa resistance into our colonies. So what we're seeing in the brood nest area is an awful lot of nectar coming in from the borage. That will necessarily get dropped into these frames and then gets moved up into the supers as the bees work it through the day and evening and into the night. That will then free up space for our queen to lay eggs in, and so it continues. Here we have another frame of sealed brood, but you can see again lots of cells with nectar in, and that nectar will be moved from those cells up into the supers as it gets processed. So we've got one more frame to look at. No sign of any rudimentary queen cups or queen cells. This colony is queen right. They have probably 8 frames of brood in various stages. Here's another frame of brood, again with that cell uncapping situation. Hopefully the camera can see that. So we've got all of these cells that have been kind of unpicked. So it's something that I really want to investigate further. If I turn the frame over, again a similar position. This is termed bald brood, but this isn't caused by wax moth larvae. Bald brood caused by wax moth larvae tends to be in a straight line, and you have that kind of tunnel that the wax moth travels through. This is something completely different. So really interesting to see in this colony, and that it coincides with my ongoing research into finding Varroa resistant colonies within all of the colonies that we have. So it's looking like 8 frames of brood, which is fantastic. Lots of bees, lots and lots of bees, and we'll just close this colony back down, and then we'll have a look in the super that I took off last to see whether we actually need to get more space on these bees. In my mind, I kind of have already decided that we do, but we'll have a look at the situation and see what the super looks like. So you can maybe compare it with your own colonies and see whether you think you need to add additional space. So we just brush the bees off the top bar so I can hold on to it firmly. It's just quite a heavy frame, and then I'm just going to shake the bees off because I don't want to crush any bees when I put this frame of food stores back in. That's fantastic. So the bees have lots of food available to them. We know the queen is in here. We'll shake the bees off the excluder. I'm just going to scrape off the brace comb that we've got. Make sure we pick that up so that we don't leave it in the apiary. I'm just doing this beside me, sorry. It is literally just scraping it with your hive tool, scraping off all this excess wax, and then we can pop it back on. I always pop them on at a slight angle, give them a wiggle, and that generally brushes the bees away, and you have very few bees that get injured or damaged or killed. So, I'll give them a smoke just to get the bees off the queen excluder, and then we'll lift this super back on. I can tell that this super is filling up very rapidly, so I do think we will have to get another one on, which is good news. Let's have a look. And normally what I would do is have a look at it before putting it back on, but I just want to be able to do this in view of the camera for you so you can see what's happening. So here we are. You can possibly see how light this honey looks. A fantastic frame of Borage honey. These frames were a foundation when we put them in just a week ago, and it's been drawn and is doing very, very nicely. So it looks as if most of the frames are in a similar position. They are being capped, and so I'm just going to pop off and get another box. I think what we'll do is we'll put some cut comb foundation on them because they do look as if they're working really well, and we'll see if we can get some cut comb drawn beneath this box. Here we are. I'll just pop this on straight on top of this box and see exactly what happens. A lot of people will tell you the box has to go at the bottom of the stack. Others will tell you they prefer to put it on the top. Well, what's going to happen if we put it part way up? Not a great deal from putting it on the bottom or the top, I suspect, but let's see what happens. Now I have 9 frames here with cut comb foundation, so this is unwired thin foundation. We use molten wax along the top bar groove with the sheet of foundation slotted into that groove, and then we pour molten wax along the edge on both sides and then suspend it. You can use half sheets, you can cut them diagonally, but on this occasion we're using full sheets. We've pushed the boat out and used complete sheets instead of part sheets. Okay, well that's all spaced. We don't use spacers in the supers. Did I just say that? If I didn't, we don't use carcellated spacers because we do move them around quite a lot, so I don't want to have to take spacers off and then nail new ones on. So let's get another super on top of this box. And this one is particularly heavy. You'll see that we've got a mixture of supers. At the moment we're using honey pour supers, but we also have some of these wooden supers. So we're going to carry on using those until such time as we've swapped them all out for the honey pour versions. I think that's okay. Now the important thing is to make sure there are no gaps. and then the last thing to do here is to scrape off this comb. The bees are likely to put it back again, but I really don't want to crush hundreds of bees when I put the final super back on top, so we'll just give them a gentle smoke to push them away, and then quickly scrape this off. And then I can remove this again so that we don't have robbing. A little bit of smoke for this last piece. Quickly wash my hands and hive tool just so that we don't drip lots of honey everywhere and nectar. And then we can get this super back on, and you'll watch me just easing it across, and that just pushes the bees away from that front corner and it doesn't crush any bees. I'm not going to check this top super. I think we're perfectly fine with it as it is. And we just spread out this comb that I scraped off, and the bees will come up and take that down without any problem at all. And then next time I can just cut this wax away. We get our roof on, and there we are. That's our inspection complete. Just a general inspection to illustrate what's happening within a colony at the height of the summer on a borage flow. If you do have any questions about borage, about the state of this particular colony, if you've got any comments about varroa resistance in honeybees as well, I'd be delighted to hear from you. And you can either leave a message beneath the video on YouTube. If you're watching this on Patreon, then send me a direct message, or you can contact me via my website, which is www.norfolk-honey.co.uk/ I think it's called Contact Us, but go to the website norfolk-honey.co.uk and just go to the contact page and drop me a message. Alternatively, you can email us directly at info@norfolk-honey.co.uk. Do take a look at our Patreon page. We're loaded with additional content for you, looking at all different types of tips and techniques in beekeeping for all levels of experience. But if not, we'll catch up next time. Thanks for watching.